grenades out, packed with cyanide. High octane hatred, they're ready to.
The whole reason I got into modular synths is because I was on the devil's playground, i.e. eBay, and I was doing a bid on a Moog, and I missed it. I missed the damn bid, and I had like $2,500, and it's like I had eBay fever.
Yeah.
And it's like, find me something right now, buy it. And it was this thing, and I had no fucking idea what it was, but it turned out to be this weird white elephant that was a hybrid by Moog and Oberheim. And it's a modular synth. And I've had a friend who opened it up and he went, yep, it's Oberheim and Moog made this synth. I've seen pictures of 3 of them.
What was it called?
I don't know. It has no badge on it. All of the modules on them have Oberheim on them. I've got photos of them online.
Okay, yeah.
And the Moog one has a Moog badge. And I have a friend who opened it up and he said that's a 24 dB ladder. That's a filter. That's a Moog filter.
Huh.
And it sounds like a devil, and it's got banana jacks, and look, whether it's some guy who worked at one of the factories, and I don't know, it can't be proven or disproven, but it sounded like a bitch.
Yeah.
And then I discovered Dope. The ability to go, well, you know, I don't want to start with oscillator, filter, amplifier. I want to go sample this or whatever. Like all the things I was doing on the K2000, I could then do it like this and put K2000 through it, or a sampler, or my voice. I could use a drum beat, turn it up heaps, and plug it into a filter or plug it into an oscillator so that the volume of that drum beat that became a voltage, and that voltage was frequency modulating an oscillator. That still blows my mind. But then I got the Dope for 189 Bit Crusher.
Yeah.
And when I started getting that and going, well, I'm going to use that as a filter, so instead of it cutting out harmonics, it's going to cut down the sample rate. Like, that's mad. Another thing I love doing, I call it the poor man's Bit Crusher, is I get the Dope for 148 sample and hold.
Okay, nice.
And what I'll do is I'll put a signal into that, and then I'll put a square wave, like a really high frequency square wave into it, and the output of it will be a bit crushed, depending on the frequency that is the sample and hold, is kind of like this bit crushed version of the sound. So if I'm putting in like something that's like a 4,000 hertz signal into it, it's sampling at 4,000 times a second. So if I then put an envelope generator on that, and I make that like it starts at 10K and drops down to like 5K or 1K, like a kick drum, the sample and hold is going to track that. And it's going to go high frequency, shitty frequency. That shit blows my mind, man. I fucking love that stuff. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. Whoa, what the hell is that? My favorite distortion in my existence is the A137. You know, when you start frequency modulating that thing, it's like, oh my God. Well, I love that shit. Like, I have no idea. This is what I was saying before, is that when you're having trouble writing music, when you're having trouble actually doing it and getting into the zone and whatever, get the manuals for this stuff, read the manuals, or go on eBay and look for a piece of gear that you already own. Like if you don't have a boner anymore for your Emacs, jump on eBay and drool over eBay stuff, and then you get all excited and you start using your Emacs again. I think it's controller 92 on the Dope for a 190, which is the mini CV converter. I think controller 92 increases the LFO rate. I've never used that. So I started using that.
Well, I mean, what I think is key to like the modular world, at least, key with the modular world, regardless of anything, is experimentation.
Yeah.
Just experiment the fuck out with it and then see what happens and see what you can get out of it. And to me, that's the funnest thing. Is like, yeah, making music with it is fun and it's enjoyable, but the funnest thing is to just be like, well, what happens when I plug this into there and I turn these knobs and I do this?
Yeah.
And there's just endless amounts of fun there. Yeah. And there's so much endless amounts of fun. You may never get anything done. Yeah. Because you're working on like, oh, this is a great, I'm learning things. Like, at one point you have to take the things you've learned and actually put it towards.
That's really interesting as well, because I love pop music. Music that is simple and strong and clear. I love sounds that are fucked up, debauched, and just, what the fuck is that? And I used to have this thing where I would sit down and I'd start with like a crazy sequence. And so I'd get the MAQ and I'd patch, recuperate, fucking Prophet 5 and through the dope from blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And patch the shit out of everything and end up with this crazy shit where it was ripping you could hear it pulling the threads out of the frequencies and the harmonics, and you could hear the modules crying. And then, you go, this is awesome. It's like 5 a.m. and I've been doing this for 8 hours and it's awesome. And you'd record it and you listen to it the next day and it's like, what do I do with this? Because it's like, because when you start making music and you're trying to do something that makes sense, it's like, well, this is sitting right in the frequency range of that. So if I'm going to put that in the song, it's got to sit up here. So I've got to put this crazy high pass filter through it. But then I lose all this really cool bloopy shit that's going on, but I can't have the bloopy shit because it's right in the face of the bass. So what I do now, it's what Bernie fucking Warwell and Bootsy Collins used to do, is that when Bootsy wasn't playing, Bernie would fill it up. They both like meet on the one and then they'd sit around each other and then they come back to it again. And that's what I try and do. I guess trying to think like a band, because that's what always really amazes me about electronic music. It's not just as simple as, the guitar, it sits in this frequency. Until it's taking a solo, then it takes this part. But it's okay for it to take that part because the person isn't singing anymore. And your bass sits down there. It's like, dude, I've got this bass sound that goes from like fucking 10 cycles all the way up to like 15K. And it's this great big screaming squashy thing. And it wobbles and throws itself around. And I'm supposed to put guitar in there as well. How the fuck do I do that? Yeah, and that's another fun thing as well, is getting a guitar like George Bykos, who plays guitar with Angel Spit. And we are on the same page as far as destroying sound. He'll record his guitar and then he'll mic it up and make it sound massive. Like he'll reamp it to sound like death. But then he'll send me up just the raw pluck, 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 pluck straight out of the guitar. And you compress it, you get it thick and dirty, and you treat it like it's an oscillator. And then you run it through the dope file. And then you frequency modulate it, and then you run it through all of these things. And you end up with this crazy hybridized guitar sound. This is one thing that I'm always curious about, is I try to get drum sounds or vocal sounds, or not just here's a sawtooth and fuck with it. Yeah. Like what happens if I use a recording of me singing or a recording of George playing guitar or something? What happens if I apply modular mayhem to that? What happens if I put a guitar part or a slap bass part through an analog sequencer and fuck with it? Like you said, it's about experimentation.
That's what I love about modular, as opposed to, traditional instruments are great too, but the issue is I love modular because you can just sit in front of it and you can just turn knobs to the sun comes up, which I've done. I've done that from I started at like 4 p.m. and then next thing I knew, I looked out the window, I'm like, wait, why is the sun coming up? That's not right at all. Like something went horribly awry here.
Yeah.
But it was totally worth it.
What a sweet noise I have.
Yeah. I didn't record any of it. That's the sad part. None of it was recorded because I just sat there and kept turning knobs. Like, oh yeah, well, what happens in here? What happens when you do this? And it was just like, I wake up and I basically look up and I'm like, it's fucking AM again.
Yeah.
And I need sleep. And yeah, basically that was the end of that.